What do these examples show? What do they demonstrate about where advertising is going? Is it encouraging? Does it show that there's opportunities everywhere?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think that I always say we're not inventing this for the first time. You think about something like the Macy's Day Parade. Well, who was the first person who said, we should do a parade? Well, that's a new medium, you know, people marching down the street in floats that end up at your store, you know, during the biggest shopping season of the year. So I think we're freeing ourselves up, not so much that this is new, but it's maybe new again, to really think about human behavior and where they are. I don't know about the Norwegian Airlines that took the front of their store, the travel agency store, and did a different store for each location that they were now going to fly to. So you walked by one day and it was a Turkish coffee house, then you walked by and it was an alpine skiing, you know, clothing store. And to understand human behavior of like, this is a commuter space where people walk by every day, and that we can probably get more attention by changing the store to say we've got new destinations than put something in a newspaper is really smart, you know, understanding how people are behaving.
I think it's good though, because I think people are getting smarter and smarter. You know, I mean, I think people have always been smart, but they can now successfully avoid advertising if they want to, you know, so it sort of puts a lot of pressure on us as an industry to charm them and engage them and actually reward them for some interaction rather than just sort of, hey, read this, or, you know, and I think it's being reflected in the work too, because even when it is an ad, and a traditional one at that, you still, I think you're seeing people sort of going the extra mile to kind of, I suppose, be a little bit more cautious with how they speak to people, you know.
So it's interesting because there's a converse side to that is disturbing to me as a human being, which is to be assaulted by some of these ideas, as fantastic as they are creatively. There was one campaign. I'm going to be really interested to see if it gets in because everyone was laughing at it, but it almost mugged you. You know, it felt like you were getting mugged by it. And I think I saw maybe 3.
Are you going to mention which one it is?
No.
Yeah, can you tell us what you...
No, I will not do that.
We're only lauding things today at a
there's a rule at the One Club: you never mock work because you might be sitting next to the people who did it. And I've been on the business end of that.
And it hurts.
And it hurts.
It's
it
painful.
Hurts. It
I think
hurt.
I've received 2 of those today.
It hurts. But no, but literally work that literally almost assaulted you in a way. And made its point beautifully. But I know that as I watch that, I say, wow, you did that to a human being so that you could sell something? That feels wrong to me.
Yeah.
That does not feel right. And so I think that we have, I don't know that I even used to worry about things like that. And now it's on my mind, like, you know,
when is it appropriate? There's
a responsibility now to do some of these things. That's one of the things about like the receipt campaign. To me, that idea is, it's fairly idealistic, you know, and it stands for something really big.
Yeah.
And yet it's a bookstore, you know, and
you're
yet
right, it's not an intrusion.
Not an intrusion.
Like
it's a delight.
You don't go, oh.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting point. I think, you know, people are a lot more, well, on the whole, aware of the implications of some of those things outside of, in that case, the TV space. Just like you go, well, that proves the point, you know, quite clearly, but I think what it doesn't do is kind of acknowledge the, you know, this sort of ripple effect outside of that, of all those people, whether they were paid to be in a commercial or not, but that feeling that they experience, they're going to talk about that, and someone else is going to mention it, or they're going to, you know, comment on it.
And it's fairly obvious when you look at the show, like which ones, like there are things that I wish I had experienced. So like the standard, the Target fashion show, that's, to me, that's not an abuse of taking public space and, you know, taking
I've seen that 3 times now, and I keep just going, oh, I hope that comes up again in another category so I can watch it again. I mean, it's just amazing, you know.
Is it just the beauty of it, the way that they pulled it off?
Simplicity, but also complexity. I mean, it looked like, I still keep looking at it and go, how the hell did they do that? I'm just not sure how they timed all the, you know, lighting, but also it's such a high profile place to do it as well, and it, you know, fantastic.
Yeah, being aware that hotel already is used as a stage, and then, you know, using it appropriately and authentically for your brand, and making it stunning, you know, because if you had done it without the craft, it would have been obnoxious.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
You know, the other side of that is there's a wonderful narrative now that you can have with your campaign, it's no longer just about the actual work or the idea. It's about the narrative around the idea and what you actually did to get it done, how you did it, how did you pull this thing off.
It's its own content.
That's part of its own,
yeah,
that's part of the story now, in a truly 360 in a way that we used to mean 360 is in sort of one idea in a lot of different media, you know. Now you're truly creating media as the message now. And it's a real opportunity. Again, it's also a responsibility, but I just love watching how some of these things get done. That Target is a great example of a feat that was pulled off. It's not just, wow, that's amazing to look at. There's a story around it that I think fits with Target's values and what the brand is about, and it's really great.
The one thing that I think is interesting is I keep having this conversation with people about how do we get to scale on some of these great ideas, because I do worry. I was at a high school 2 weeks ago and I asked them, they asked me what was some of my favorite work, and I mentioned the Gatorade replay, thinking, okay, these are high school kids, 16 years old. They've got to love it as much as I do. They didn't know it.
They didn't know what it was. Huh?
And I was like, oh no, you know, we need to be careful that we're so, they're great ideas, but are they getting to a mass scale? And how do we get them to a mass scale? And I actually think what's going to happen is we're going to start, these ideas are actually going to need advertising. Short form communications, like when you were asking me, how did the hidden pizza place get, you know, how do you provoke participation? And I think we're going to see that the acts or this theater or these experiential things become almost like a product, and that we go back to some more short form mass communication to get you involved with the idea.